So now the big problem over here. I really should have took care of this when I first got the truck, because when I first got it, it was just a little tiny section, and now it's spreading. The cancer is real. So, this section of the door is a little hard to work with. Everything up here you could get to from the backside. This part right here is where everything kind of attaches, and the reason why this happens is twofold. One, when you don't have good window seals, all the water just keeps raining on down on the inside of the door, so I replaced the window seals with some junkyard seals. You just pop them out. You gotta roll the window all the way down, then you can pull them out, because the old ones were totally cracked and destroyed. Kind of like this. You can see how fucked up they are and old. So yeah, replace these. And that'll fix your first problem. The second problem is these drain holes right here. If these holes aren't open, you're just gonna, all the stuff that does eventually get in won't be able to get out. And that's no bueno either. So, especially sand. For some reason on the passenger door I had a ton of sand. So I guess it helps to have this cover, or else this is open and everything just gets flung up in there somehow. But yeah, you want to make sure your door is in good, sealing condition and draining condition. But I'm gonna hammer all the crap and see where the bad rust is. So, you can see things are starting to open up just a bit. So, yeah. First I started off with a flathead and a hammer and just tapping them, trying to find the weak spots of the metal and opening it up and bending it. And I use these little channel locks to bend. So if you can just take the metal and just easily bend it up and out of the way, it's too weak for what you want. So you bend until it just kind of stops bending. Then you know that the metal's at least a little stronger than a tin can. So you can find where the good and the bad is and all that. And every now and then I'll use a flathead and a hammer to try and tap around and just figure out. Sometimes just using the hammer to hit, you can see when the metal stops warping so easily, you found something halfway decent. But you just gotta keep pulling and prying until you find all the rust. And there's a lot of rust, man. Kind of sucks. All right, now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of the door. So I drilled out all the rivets for this little piece. It's just a rubber cover or something, I don't know. Make it look prettier, keep the dirt out or something, but really good at keeping the dirt in. So the way that this door is put together, from what I'm figuring, you got your inside panel, and then you have your outside sheet metal, and what they do is they just take the sheet metal and wrap it on the other side. And that's it. So that's how the sheet metal's held on there, and then I guess it's tacked or whatever, spot welded or however it's held to the door. Well, my problem is that all the shit back here is happening where that fold's at and just running all the way down. So I'm gonna see if I can't bend it out, get all the rust out, maybe bend it back, either put in some metal or do some Bondo work, or I don't know, something. I'm just trying to get rid of the rust for right now. Let's see where this takes us. Okay, so I cut out all the really bad stuff, and then I grinded it down with a grinding disc so that I could see the bumps a lot better to figure out where the good stuff and the bad stuff really is. And then I marked out some lines, and I still got some scrap computer parts laying around, so I'm going to cut these, make the lines a lot more flat, and we'll start making some patch panels. Okay, so we got our pieces cut out, all nice and pretty. Had to use my frickin' Dremel because I can't find the right adapters to use a proper cutoff wheel, not a grinding disc. So, fuck. Alright, gonna make some cardboard templates, trace it onto our metal. Then we can use the shitty welder and see if we can't make really crappy beads. Yay! Alright, time to duct tape it in and Bondo right over it. Solid. We got our templates, so I guess we'll trace them. I'm trying to figure out how I want to do this, if I can make a fancy bend, or if I'll have to butt weld them, or how I'm going to do it, but ugh. Alright, I'm sick of dicking around with this panel. I got it about where I need it. I got most of the bends that I can get in there. Everything. This is going to be sitting flush, so there's a little bit of a hole here that I'll just have to fill up, I guess, and I don't know, whatever. Guess it doesn't really matter if it's perfectly straight to me. I just want to fill the hole. Okay, so here you can see a monstrosity of what welders would cringe at. And there was also some sound deadener sticky stuff that started melting and dripping and catching on fire, and that was a pain in the ass, and I couldn't get out of the way, so I just had to weld around it. So this was terrible. I tried bending the panel in so that it was like stuff, and it just wasn't working. So I said, fuck it, I'm going back to butt joints because I'm mildly good at that. So we actually got some halfway decent looking tacks here. So I'm going to see if I can't pull off something that doesn't resemble, bird shit on a hot day. I think I got my water about where I need it, so try my best. Alright, I want to say that this one went a whole lot better. Doesn't look beautiful, but I was definitely getting the feel for it a lot more. I could get little tiny puddles and properly merge them and not just have to have a bunch of crap pile up. So, we got a bit of warpage here, but I would hit a little piece, and then the second it got too hot or was blowing a hole, I'd move, do a little piece, and then just keep moving. And then when I got to the end, clean it all off and start where you left off and just keep filling them in. So, yeah, not the best, not the worst. It's too dark out to grind, but I'll have to break out the flap disc or something and grind it all down, look for holes, fill in the holes, grind it down. You get the drill. So here you can see a before and after shot. It ain't exactly the best, ain't exactly the worst, but what are you gonna do? So I used a grinding wheel to grind all the weld off and get it nice and smooth. And then I used a flap disc to clean it up a little bit. Dude, those things are freaking awesome, man. They're nice and soft and you can just run over them, and it's kind of cool. Makes the surface a lot nicer. It doesn't take off a lot of material, but you know, it's like a sander. So now the fun process of doing this one too. Okay. Well, the second one that I did definitely turned out a whole lot better. Not nearly as many holes. A little bit here, a little tiny bit here, but for the most part, it looks a whole lot better than this one. This one over here looks like it was welded by Jesus. It was so holy. So, yeah, I guess I'll have to get the welder out and fill in some of these holes. It's not perfectly smooth, and that's a little bit my fault because the body panel started getting all warped. But, I don't know. I'll keep dicking around with this and I'll show you what I come up with. I like welding at night. You make yourself a bootleg day and night thing. The flashlight on, you can still see the welds without an auto-dimming helmet. It's quite useful. Getting tired of dicking around with this thing. Still got big old holes. I don't give a fuck anymore. We're just going to put some Bondo up in it. See how badly we can't mess this up. Got a quart of this Bondo stufferini. And some pad thingies, some spreaders. So I'm gonna mix it up on some cardboard and smear it on there. And alright, Bondo's been applied. Rubber gloves definitely help keep your hands clean. That's a good idea. Mix it up on some cardboard and spread it. Use the smallest spreader. They say in the directions that you want to use a light coat first and really push it into the metal just to get a real light smear coat and really get it to grab into the metal. And then after that, you can take the rest of it and kind of fill it in. So you only got like 3 or 4 minutes to work with it, so you better act fast. Once it starts getting tacky, you can't really mold it anymore. So this big hole over here, I had to actually push some Bondo in there to really get it to sit. This one didn't quite go in, but you know, we're gonna let this dry for half an hour. Okay, so this is what we're at. This is with the second coat on. I did what's called a guide coat, where you spray some paint on it, sand it some more, so you can see where the low spots are. So everywhere where there's this gray paint, there's low spots. So I got an area to focus in here, an area to focus in here, and then just a little bit in the center here, just to get the whole panel smooth. Something else useful is to take something flat and run it across, and you can see where the gap is. to see where the panel is not flat. Pretty useful. So I'm going to mix up one more batch, and smear it on, and let it dry, and sand it off. And then after that, I'm probably going to say fuck it and paint it. This is the third coat of Bondo sanded down. So you can very clearly see that there's still some low spots around this area, here, here, and this one's kind of low too. Everything else real smooth, real nice. At this point, what you would want to do instead of using a body filler is use a body putty. It's a lot thinner, and you would just apply it in these small little areas. You just want to, just a littlest bit to fix those low spots. Put some self-etching on the metal, put some regular primer, paint the fucker, be done with it. Alright, so we're out in the daytime. I hit most of the metal with self-etch, and now that it's morning, I can see everything, hitting all the other stuff. Sanded it all with some 180, so we're going to do the rest of it with self-etch, and even some of the stuff back here. And then once that dries, we'll do some primer. Okay, so I've applied the sandable primer on there, giving it 2 coats, 10 minutes apart. So it's not terrible. I can still see some of the little imperfections, like some of the streaks and everything, a little bit here. But I'm at the point where I kind of don't care too much anymore. Gave the primer a quick sand, so I kind of got some of the high spots out at least. I'm done caring, so let's top coat it. It's hard to get the right light on here, but it's been top coated, so let that dry for a little bit before we clear it. And obviously you can still see some of those imperfections I was talking about, and I knew that. But like I said, I don't care. Okay, clear coat has been applied. I did 2 coats. They say to wait 10 to 15 minutes for each coat, so it's looking pretty good. Looks a whole lot flatter and smoother than it did before. You can see the little dimples here and there, and that's because I didn't do a perfect job. And if you really want to get a mirror finish, you know, get the body filler glaze out, really get that sanding good. You could spend, you know, days working on this and make it look nice. But it's a Jeep, it's gonna get beat the fuck up, so I'm not gonna put too much effort into it. Just enough to get by and look halfway decent. So now we're gonna drill and put in some rivets so we can put that rubber protecty thingy back on. We're going to glue on our side trimmer thing, and we should be set. Something cool, if you come in here, you can see where the putty was oozing out. So that's what it looks like on the back side of your panel when you put putty in, or body filler, you know, not a whole lot. So I have a box of 1/8 inch by 1/8 inch deep button head rivets, and a little rivet gun. And we're just going to stick them in there and katoofa. Okay, we take our rivet and stick it on in, like so. Take your pop rivet gun and slip it on in. Make sure you got pressure on it. You squeeze it once, push it down, squeeze it again. There she goes. Pop, pop. Make sure to pick them all up when you're done. Don't want to pop your tires. Okay, cool. Rubber door trim's back on. So now it'll keep all the air and mud and shit out. You can see a little sealy dealies there. Nice, very nice. Alright, last but not least, we got to attach our side molding trim to finish the job off. So you'll notice right here, these parts that stick up, this is actually foam tape. So we gotta peel this off, cut it off, get it off somehow. And I got some new stuff here. Super strength molding tape. And, I don't know, what's that, 1/2 inch maybe? Something like that. That's what was on there. I hear good things about it. The glue, I hear sometimes eats up certain paints. And since that's a much cheaper spray paint, I'm not gonna try that. I hear good things about automotive Goo Gone for getting, you know, the goo off. It's mostly clean because, you know, most of it's fresh paint, but there's a little bit here and there, so we'll see how hard this stuff is to get off. Okay, so this stuff comes off relatively easy. The corners are stuck on there pretty good, but if you can get some of it started, you just start peeling it. The only problem is it leaves the edge, but the rest of it comes off pretty easy. So I just got this little scraper here. Just hold it and good town. Get it all clean. Okay, so we got all the schmoo off. Now it's nice and clean. Cleaned it off with some water and a rag. So all that shit's off. Nice and smooth. I don't know if this needs to be cleaned with the Goo Gone or if that's going to fuck it up. I think it might fuck it up. But that should be clean enough for us. So now we're going to come over to the body. Make sure that there's no stuff on here. Now if you notice, since all this was repainted, there's nothing really here, but over here there's a little bit. So I'm going to rub that on there and see if it doesn't take these little bits off. Pro tip, maybe clean the surface before you paint it. That rubber was like underneath the paint, so yeah, whoopsie on my part. Alright, I cleaned it up. You put the Goo Gone on there and it didn't really seem to do much, but that's because the rubber was under paint, so I just scratched it off with my fingernail. Cleaned it off with some water. Alright, put the sticky stuff on. Okay, so that's about as much tape as I used. Not nearly as much as I thought, but hey, I got a big roll so I can do other stuff if I ever need to in the future. So we got one on the top, one on the bottom. You can just cut it off flush at the ends. So before you take the tape off, we're going to put the trim on there just to see where it has to sit. Then you can take the tape off and do it for real. Okay, so we're going to have a little bit of a gap on each side. So it's not going to be perfectly on one side or the other. It's going to be sitting in the middle, so there's a little gap here, same on the other side. So make sure that you account for the gap. You want this to sit as close to this line as possible. So we're going to take the tape off, start in the middle, and work our way out. You only really got one shot at this, so make sure she's aligned the way you want it. Okay, so I put a mark right there so that I could get center between this side and this side. And that was with the sticky stuff still covered. So then I took the stuff off and you put it in the middle and then work your way one way the other, and then you push on it real flat. There you go, it's done. So what do you think? Yeah, a lot better than it was. No holes, not super noticeable. Yeah, I didn't do a perfect job, but hell, for a Jeep, that ain't half bad. So yeah, this is the bullshit, sort of kind of half-assed way to do it. If you want to learn how to really do it, watch some real professionals. But that'll give you an idea of what you're trying to work for, what you're trying to do. So I hope you learned something. I learned I still don't like body work. But hey, ain't she pretty now?